One of the most fun things I do in my garden, I regrow onions. I also regrow green onions. I regrow celery. And it's so easy. Even if you don't have a garden like I do, you only need a pot of soil. So I'm going to share with you what I do so that you can be successful in regrowing onions and have some fun growing something that you actually like.
All I have not provided.
There's different kinds of onions that you can regrow. In my dish here, I have an organic sweet onion. And you can see here that I've kept, I don't know, a ½ inch off the bottom. And then I just stick it in a bowl of water or a plate of water and see if it's going to grow some roots. Here's another one that has started to grow some roots. But I am a little concerned that it's got some mold right here. So I don't know if this one's going to actually be successful, but I'm going to plant it and see what happens. This is one that refused to grow roots. I think that's it for this one. This one's not going to grow roots either. Now this red one looks like it tried. It looks like some new ones are coming in. I'm going to leave this one and see if it'll grow roots. I don't try to grow them unless I see that they are growing substantial roots. It is best that you go ahead and just start them in a shallow dish of water. Now, you see here, 2 out of 4 sweet onions, they didn't work. And I don't know why. But I will tell you one thing that I've observed that does help me to have a better success rate. And that is, if you're only going to use part of your onion, then cut this off first and use what you want and refrigerate the rest. And by saying that, I mean don't put this end in the refrigerator and then try to get it to root, because it's probably not going to work. That's been my experience. As far as red onions go, man, they don't have as good a success rate for me. But I do have, once in a while, I get one to grow. I'll bring you in closer to these two. So this is a sweet onion, and I do use organic, and it seems that the organic ones have a better success rate. And this is from a red onion. See the difference in how dark green it is. Now, once you get it to this stage right here, then all you do, dig a little. Look at all the roots down in here. You're gonna, from these other ones. That means they're happy. They're growing roots. Just set them down in there and cover them with about 1/4 inch of soil. Now, I keep mine damp. You can tell here, the soil's pretty damp. This pot, I water this pot about once a day, and that's what I need for my climate. The sun, and I do keep this in the morning sun. They do prefer partial shade to, they could go full sun, but where I live in Central Florida, this soil would dry out real quick. And you see here, they'll start to die off on the ends. Now I'm going to plant this one in my pineapple bed. And this is where I typically do plant all my onions and my celery, my green onions, along with the pineapple and the strawberries, all in one bed. They all just get along great. So pineapples and strawberries in partial shade, and they do get direct sun starting around 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon until the sun sets. So I think that some of our plants are a lot more versatile than you're led to believe. So come on in, I want to show you the various stages that I have some onions growing, and I'm going to plant this one. So I looked for a spot that was empty, and I noticed this one. Here is where an onion did not continue to grow. And sometimes that happens. Look, it's got roots, but it just kind of rotted away and didn't grow a top. Now, I don't think it's anything wrong with the soil. It just happens. Maybe, like this one's got mold on it. This may or may not grow. We'll see. So I'm just going to cover that up a little bit. And we'll see. You know, it's okay if not all of them make it. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. Believe it or not, these are green onions that have regrown. Look how big they can get. And last year, actually this spring, they put out a head that came right up out of the middle, and it had a whole lot of what looked to be a seed head, but actually they were little tiny onions that were starting to grow right out of the seed head. So I planted those in another spot, and by golly, they're growing. So I'm pretty happy about that. So you see, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and sometimes it just gives you a really pleasant surprise. So these guys right over here are my bunching onions. I transplanted them from the garden, and they're growing quite well here. Now those are not regrown. Those are several generations of bunching out from a friend of mine that gave me some bunching onions. And unfortunately, I can't tell you where you can find more unless you can find a friend to give them to you. There's also a kind of onion called multiplying onions, and you can do the same with them. So if you can find multiplying onions, and they are more readily available than what these are bunching onions. When you get them, you're going to cut them way back, as I described to you in one of my videos. So I'll leave a link to that video at the end screen and also in the description. There's more bunching onions that I transplanted here. And this is what typically happens with a regrown onion. You see there's 1, 2, 3. It will make 3 smaller onion bulbs. And it takes 5, maybe 6 months to get to that point, and you'll know it's ready to harvest when it starts dying back, or it will like fold over. Now I've tried regrowing those that have regrown from this, and I have not been successful in doing that. I have to pull a weed just because I'm here. There's another sweet onion coming up. That one has 2, going to make 2 bulbs. And there's my celery. Let's move the pineapple out of the way. That is celery. I did it the same way. I left about a half inch on the bottom, put it in a shallow dish, and if it grew roots, well, I put it here. Now, to be honest, the celery that grows here in Florida, it's pretty stringy, pretty tough. By the time that grows to be a full-size stalk of celery or bunch of celery, they're stringy and tough. So I will just cut them up very fine and use them in soup. So here's one that I planted a few days ago. You see here how it's got 3 growing out of 1? One of my goals with gardening is to keep it fun. And one of the funnest things I do is regrowing onions and celery. Thank you for having this conversation with me and coming along with me and helping me plant my regrowing onions. Be sure to check out this next video, and I hope that you'll subscribe and pause a minute to give it a green thumbs up.